Our next speaker proposed to look at designers as data miners. Ammon Haggerty, he is founder and design director at Formation. It's a San Francisco-based startup that uses AI to transform customer loyalty programs. Prior to that, he was design director at Boston Consulting Group, and before that, also principal UX designer at Microsoft. Please welcome Ammon Haggerty on stage.
Everyone hear me? Wonderful to be here. Thank you. So yeah, I'm a co-founder and head of design at Formation. It's a small startup right around the corner from here. Many of you probably have never heard of us, but I'm pretty sure many of you have actually used our product. We power the loyalty programs for Starbucks and Free-United Airlines. And we do this by using a bunch of user data. We use machine learning, game theory, behavior design. We bring all that together and create individualized offers, which are also games, to nudge users towards new and potentially lasting behaviors. And it's really powerful. It works incredibly well. And some of you might be thinking, that's pretty awesome, and some might be thinking that's kind of creepy. I think it's a little bit of both, and hopefully I'll touch on both those. So, data is the fuel for AI. Without data, I think a lot of these a lot of companies and a lot of these ideas wouldn't really exist. And humans create all of this data, and historically, designers have been the stewards of the human-computer relationship. And so we're in this really important time where we really need to understand how to achieve balance in the relationship between humanity and AI. And designers have a responsibility to both be a part of that conversation, as Christian was talking about earlier. And also, really, they have a responsibility to help teach our business leaders about AI's impact on humanity, because I think that's often missing. So I'm going to talk about a couple different tactics that I think can reset some of the foundation of designing for AI. So first is about user empowerment, and it's really about deepening and expanding user engagement. And the second tactic is really leveraging playfulness as a tool to unlock reinforcement learning and other kind of deep machine learning techniques. So I'm going to start off with user empowerment. And many companies these days are built on data currency. I think the idea has been this kind of symbiotic relationship where the goal is kind of mutualism. There's, the users are getting a benefit of a free tool or free software, and companies are getting a benefit of, leveraging their data for profits. And until recently, it's actually been, pretty successful, and it's been a great idea. But I'm not exactly sure how much my own data is worth, but let's just say it's $20 a month. A lot of these companies would argue that's pretty fair. Giving them these great tools, I'm getting $20. But as personalization really reaches deeper into, whoops, sorry. As personalization reaches deeper into our personal lives and it expands beyond the boundaries of these organizations, mutual benefit doesn't go far enough. So if we look at a kind of broader spectrum of the kind of empowerment journey, the next step is really around influence. And this is something that my team and I are really working on, which is how do we create more of a meaningful feedback loop with the customers so that they have more of a sense of control and that they're actually driving more of the experience. And then continuing on that, the next step is, how do we actually give them control over how their data is used? So for example, if they decide they don't want to have that company use their data, monetize their data, can they just pay $20? But having more granular control over where their data is used, I think, is that next step. And then finally, really shifting towards data ownership, I think, is the ultimate goal of empowerment and of user empowerment. And this will fundamentally change how businesses operate. And we're really in just like the early stages of exploring that as a concept. But I think it's the only way that we'll really truly be able to enable meaningful AI. So, and it's this kind of user empowerment really is the most direct path towards building trust. So let's look at the access that we give users. So the deeper the access, the more data, or the more trust is needed. And things like GDPR have really put a spotlight on the data that's being harvested. And it's revealed that a lot of these companies haven't really established the trust that they need to hold that level of data. And so the response has largely been to allow people to opt out. But that kind of goes against this idea of trying to go deeper with the customer. And so I think it's been a big missed opportunity to really have that conversation be more about trust, more about relationship building. So if we look at data access and user empowerment on a matrix, kind of think of the top left as happy machines and the bottom right is happy humans. And at Formation, we've developed this framework we call levels of engagement, which helps us understand how we can build a deeper level of engagement with our customers and kind of sustain the trust needed to have that relationship. So I just mapped a couple companies on here just from my own perspective. Google's at level 2, Facebook level 1, Amazon level 1. I mean, even my health provider isn't really giving me the empowerment that I need. So I mapped it to level 2. There's some interesting companies that are starting to explore data ownership. I mean, Tim Berners-Lee of like World Wide Web fame is building this solid platform. It's really early stages. Microsoft's been working on this for more than a decade. They recently leaked some information about Project Bali, which is focused on this. There's a blockchain startup called Doc.io that's been playing around with this idea. There's a whole bunch, but it's a really exciting space that I think is going to transform the way a lot of these businesses work. So I believe to achieve meaningful and lasting relationship between AI and humanity, we need to build products that can facilitate this kind of level 4 of engagement. Really having a deep level of access, a deep level of empowerment. And this really requires people having more control, building trust, and that unlocks that deep level of engagement and deep level of data that's needed. So I'm going to switch gears into the second tactic, which is playfulness. And in the world of reinforcement learning, there's this fascinating design challenge, which is that systems need to make mistakes to learn. And I have 2 daughters, and I recognize the importance of making mistakes. That's how they learn. And just like children, if you prevent machine learning from making mistakes, you often hold back its potential. In reinforcement learning and deep learning, there's this initial period of learning, which you call the explore phase. And if all goes well, at an inflection point, we can start to exploit the learnings of that first phase. But there's this huge challenge when users are exposed to the learning phase. And by engaging playfully and aligning expectations, we can create more latitude to explore and possibly even accelerate that explore phase. So I'm going to quickly share a project that demonstrates both playfulness and user empowerment. So when I was at Microsoft, I worked with this engineer from Sony, a really brilliant engineer named Masahiro Shimahori, and we both had a kind of shared passion for the idea of serendipity or flukes. We were talking one day, and he said, the opportunity for serendipity is a half step ahead of the present. And I really loved that quote. I couldn't really figure out what it meant, but I just knew I loved that quote. And so, you know, it inspired a bunch of different projects around playfulness. And, you know, this is what I sketched after I heard it, which was really this idea of, you know, an unknown future, you know, has the potential to be influenced towards, you know, kind of a new reality or converged reality. And so this really opened up this opportunity and gave me permission to play with ideas of time and space and kind of probabilistic logic. So this is one of the projects called the Serendipity Watch. And it builds on quantified self work, which is really grounded in data ownership. And I used a watch metaphor because it's really about the ideas about playing with time. And so in the present time, it really just observes what's around you. If you move into the future, it tries to predict different possible future probabilities. And you can engage and, you know, either reinforce or remove these ideas. And you're really training the system. You're kind of involved in the training. And this gets really interesting when you invite others into the experience. And you can see where there's possible intersections. And together you can kind of co-create and you know, manifest some potential intersection or connection. And if you move, you know, way into the future, you get into this improbable, unpredictable space. And you're really starting to engage in kind of a shared fantasy with technology. And, you know, who knows, maybe you end up facilitating some connection in a faraway place with a friend. So it's really just this playful interaction with technology. So I'm going to end by saying, you know, designers play an incredibly important role in the adoption evolution of AI. And, you know, I believe it's up to us to ensure that we find harmony between humanity and AI. So thank you.